What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sitting Courtside, episode 32. We call this the Magic Johnson episode. Of course, it's your boy Jerry D here.
And it's your boy Dante. We are back, another episode, sitting courtside once again, weekly, episode 32. Shout out Magic Johnson. Jerry, how you doing? How you doing today?
Good, man. Can't complain. You know, if anything else, if we didn't have Magic, we'd have Shaq when he was in Miami, I think.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, at least we got a few options for 32. Last week we had 31, not many to choose from. But this week we had a handful of guys to go through here. But yeah, man, I'm excited. Back talking some basketball. Favorite time of the week. Things are heating up. We're getting closer and closer to the playoffs. So a lot of stories are developing. Players coming back. Players potentially on their way out. We'll see. But before we get into things, please make sure to like and subscribe if you are watching here on YouTube. Put in the comments. Just argue with us, agree with us, have a conversation with us in the comments about what we talk about today. If you are an audio-only listener, that's fantastic. Please make sure to give us a 5-star rating. If you want to check us out on YouTube, check us out there as well. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. And those are the plugs for me. But yeah, let's jump into it, Jerry. What do we got to talk about today?
For sure, man. Like you're talking about how things are heating up. How about things are ramping up for Joel Embiid, who's been out for several weeks since his last game was January 30th.
It honestly feels longer, to be honest with you. I don't know why. It just feels longer.
Because, usually he is out for different stints in the season, at least in years past. But, it definitely feels a little odd. But we got some crazy numbers for the Sixers going on right now because they're currently in the 8th spot in the East, 40-35. Looks like they're going to have to try to claw their way throughout the play-in, but obviously getting a healthy Joel Embiid means that their chances of locking up a 7th or 8th seed seem over 80%. I guess the first question, let's just start out with this. Like, where do you think they'll end up? Because without Embiid in the lineup, they're 14-27. They're under 500 team.
Not good.
With them, they're 26-8. That's
pretty good.
Still probably top 3 in the East because that's where they were at before his injury. So,
and he was the MVP, consensus MVP too at that point. So,
career
I think that they'll definitely make the playoffs. It seems like they're gonna end up being in the play-in game. I mean, I'm sure Embiid is coming back. How they kind of handle his return the first few games, we'll see. I don't expect them to be giving him 30, 40 minutes, his first night back or nothing like that. But yeah, no, I definitely see them being a 7 or 8 seed. I think with Embiid, the possibilities, you can do stuff when you have Embiid in your lineup. It's like you have hope. You can have that faith that they can, go through the East. They can upset some teams because, like you said, they were 26-8 with him. He was averaging 35 points a game or something like that. He was putting up historical numbers, and it was something we haven't seen in God knows how long. He was having a Wilt season, like our modern day Wilt, and that got taken away from us. I'm excited to see Embiid back because you just love competition. Embiid's one of the best players in the NBA. It's kind of weird not having him playing on an almost nightly basis and seeing those crazy numbers putting up. I'm excited to see him come back and seeing how the Sixers are with him because since he's been out, the trade deadline passed. They got some new pieces. Buddy Hield is there now. So, how he adjusts, with some of these new guys there, takes a lot of the stress off of Maxi's shoulders because obviously he's had to carry the load since Embiid's been out. They're a good team. They're a really good team when everyone's healthy. So I definitely think they can make some noise in the East, depending on what the matchups are, of course. But yeah, I wouldn't hold it past them that they can, upset a team in the first round and, see how far they can go.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much said everything that needed to be said. I think straight out of the gate here, as soon as he's supposed to get ramped up. The rumor is it's Tuesday, April 2nd. He's supposed to play tonight, but he didn't show up to shoot around. So sometime this week is what the reports are saying. So I think it's a good idea to probably bring him back towards the end of this regular season. Not, like you said, not to necessarily play him 30-plus minutes a night, but maybe 15 to 20. Maybe 25.
Yeah, get him situated. Get him comfortable. Get him comfortable again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Obviously you're the man in the middle. You got to take some bruises and beatings. You got to got to bump around a little bit, see how your body reacts to it because you've been off the court since January 30th. Like
Yeah,
that's
almost
2 months.
4 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I'm tripping. I
yeah,
can't do
yeah,
math.
yeah. A few months. Yeah, a few months more. Yeah, he's been gone for a long time.
Yeah,
He's been
for a
gone
long time.
for a while. Hmm.
So just to get him back out here right before the postseason starts seems like a bright idea on the Sixers organization. Just to see what he's capable of, see exactly where he's at physically. Um, Next follow-up question I got for you here: just
Hmm.
are they the biggest threats to a Boston, to a Milwaukee? Because you mentioned they're going to be locked into that seventh or eighth seed. Because looking at the standings, there has to be a mental breakdown from the Orlando Magic, the Pacers, or the Knicks for them to potentially get out of the play-in. So that
Right.
means you have a date with the Boston Celtics in the first round if they're the eighth seed, or the Milwaukee Bucks. I
Hmm.
guess let's ask, who would you rather play if you're Philadelphia in the first round?
Who would you rather play in the first round? I mean, I'm a Celtics fan, so like, I'm trying not to have as much bias as possible. But the Celtics are heating up right now. I mean, they've been hot the whole year, but they're really like going into the playoffs. They have their rhythm going. It seems that they have everything going for them. I think
11 and
Milwaukee
2 in
is.
their last 13 games, by the way.
I think they've only lost like 4 or 5 games since the year 2024 started. So they've just been on an absolute heater
Two
this
losses to
entire
Atlanta.
season. Yeah, we don't want to talk about those. Listen, the second lot, those losses to me like they don't concern me. I should say the first one was whatever. The second one, DeJounte Murray shot 44 times, and Kristaps Porzingis was switched on to him for a lot of the game. Joe Mazzulla said after the game, like, why were you doing that? It wasn't working. He's like, well, we're at a point now where we're so far ahead where we can start practicing some things and trying new situations. And he wanted to try Chris Stapps on DeJounte and just see how that would go, kind of see how it would go for the playoffs. But besides the Celtics, I think they would much rather want to play the Bucks because Celtics have had their woes in the playoffs. They've had their mental struggles themselves and stuff like that. But I think the team that I think would be most likely to be upset in the first round will be Milwaukee. I just don't think they have it as put together as the Celtics. And obviously, like with Doc Rivers coming in, there's been all this it just hasn't been as well constructed or hasn't been well put together as they would have liked to hope at this point in the season. Not to say that, when the playoffs start, they won't be and that they won't, make it as far as the Eastern Conference Finals, if not the finals. But I think by the time the playoffs start, I would rather play the Bucks because that just seems like a team that's more that can be upset more easily, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'd probably say the Bucks. What do you think? Who would you pick?
I mean, I'm actually gonna go against you here, man. I think it might be your Boston Celtics. I
I mean,
think,
they do have those mental struggles. They
and
do.
that's kind of what I'm banking on. Like, maybe it's not the right thing to do since it is the first round playoff series, but look what happened with you guys in the Atlanta Hawks last year,
We
where
made it. They made it so much harder on themselves for no
and
reason.
they had a lot less personnel that was actually threatening to the Boston Celtics than what Philly has, because
Sure.
Philly
Hmm.
has a perennial All Star, future Hall of Famer probably in Joel Embiid, where it's like Boston doesn't have a lot of bodies to throw at me. Yeah,
No.
Chris Stapps
No.
might be the primary defender here, but
Hmm.
if I'm Joel, I'm looking at that like it's lunch.
Yeah,
Like
licking his chops, fucking
yeah,
ready to eat when he plays the Celtics. 100%.
like there's
He
Al
has an
Horford, who
easier matchup. He has an easier matchup against the Celtics because someone like
yeah,
Brooke Lopez, I think, is more capable
yeah,
of staying in front of Embiid or at least giving him some more troubles than on the Celtics.
exactly. It's like it's Brooke and it's Giannis, and even Bobby can get some minutes
Sure. Yeah, you have a few
on
bodies you can
Embiid,
throw at him.
to where it's Chris Stapps, Horford potentially, and like sure, like Al Horford for whatever reason does have some type of real estate in Embiid's head a little
It's
bit,
true.
so maybe
They have
that
some
could
history.
pose a problem. But
Hmm.
I feel like Joel Embiid will be the best player on the floor there. But he is trying to ramp back up, so maybe I shouldn't disrespect Tatum. But I feel like there is just there's like more of a glimmer of hope just based off of the matchup,
Sure.
which you and I both know, along with every other basketball fan. I'd hope that come playoff time, matchups matter so much more than what they do in the regular season. Because guess
100%.
what? You're going to see that team a potential 4 times at least, where it's several different games, but it's a different game each match. Like it's a chess match, right? That's what they call it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking it's going to be Boston, if I'm Philly, just that's the best team in the league, right? So I might as well try to get my
And
Eastern Conference Finals out the way as soon as
And
possible.
also, it's like me and my buddies were talking about this. Like all these teams looking at Boston, like they're like they see how people are talking about them, how high up they are in the rankings and
Mhm.
stuff. Like we want to go after them. Like they're hungry when they go up against Boston. Like we can compete with you guys. So I think they'll have that extra motivation, that chip on their shoulder. Excuse me.
Yeah,
Another reason why I picked Milwaukee, and this is where my Celtics fandom comes out, is the Celtics own the Philadelphia 76ers in the playoffs. I can't tell you the
yeah,
last time the Sixers have been able to beat the Celtics in the playoffs. It's been a very long time. So I've always been in that camp of like, until they prove me wrong, if we have that matchup, I'm not going to be overly worried. But obviously, every year is different. This is a different Philly team. If he's back and healthy and the playoffs start, he's back to where he was before. That's scary. That's not someone you want to play in the first round, because even if you do beat them, they're going to give you some trouble. They're going to make you tired. There's a lot of things you have to factor in. But I think we picked our teams for different reasons. I picked it because Milwaukee doesn't have as much chemistry. You picked Boston because they're more of the young guys. They don't really have that. They've collapsed in the playoffs before. They have a history of doing
yeah.
that. So it very well could happen again. I hope not, but it could happen again.
Like even I like you already know this. Like I talked to Tatum here yesterday in Charlotte
Mm-hmm.
when they came to stop by, and just when I asked him just like what's the difference between last year and this year, this they said they did take some games for granted last season
That
where
that
they
Hawks
didn't
that Hawks series is example number one. They
exactly
should have
that.
swept them. They should have swept them realistically.
Yeah, if anything, you give them a 5 game series. It's a gentleman's
Sure,
sweep for
gentleman
me.
sweep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So maybe I would hope Tatum's not lying to me for his sake and what it means for his legacy and all that stuff. But they do look more engaged. They do look more locked in. But even this game with the Hornets that they just played, it was a game up until halftime. After
Right,
halftime is
it
when they
was.
finally pulled away. But teams know. Maybe it's the Grant Williams effect. Maybe he knows the schemes. Maybe
Grant
maybe he
Williams
gained.
he was ready to go last night. Grant Williams had that game circled on his calendar
Of
for
course.
all season. All
Yeah.
season.
And I like Grant Williams was hitting turnaround fades yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And
what are you
once
doing?
and once he was bulldozing into the paint. I'm like, where was this when you were in Boston, brother? I was like, come on, what are we doing?
So like,
Yeah.
maybe that's kind of where my head's at, where I think I should believe Tatum. But just
Yeah.
like what you just said, how they own Philly, Boston has also owned the fact that they have not been able to get over the hump.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, you're right. They
22,
until they do it, then it's
yeah,
kind of hard to put them in that regard of like,
yeah,
oh, they're a shoo-in. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like they've only made the
exactly.
finals once, and every other time they've probably
Yeah.
collapsed in
Like,
other
hey,
series. So
2022 was a remarkable year for them. Obviously, they lost in the finals. They're the more talented team. They knew they should have won that. Everybody says that. You go to
yeah,
2023,
they're up two
aka
one.
last year.
They were up 2-1.
Exactly,
Go,
man.
yep,
I don't know
going
how
into
you just had
Boston.
they had a collapse. They collapsed.
I honestly like we don't have to. We can. I'll say this. So we can move on from the 2022 finals, but. I look back on it. I'm like, damn. I kind of wish we got swept because I'm like going up 2-1 and then losing the next 3 games was just
Yeah,
tough to watch. Tough to
exactly.
watch.
No, and then you move on to the year we were just talking about in 2023. It was a rough Hawk series for some reason, and let's just skip that second round series. You get to the ECF, and
Even
you're
the
about to get
second round, Tatum had to have a fourth quarter miracle. He had a legacy quarter in Game 6. He had like 17 points in the fourth quarter, the last 6 minutes of the game. Like
it's crazy.
in these situations, like the Boston Celtics, their biggest threat is themselves. I'm just gonna
Yeah,
say that right now.
it remains
It's
that
the
way.
truth. It's the
It
truth.
remains that way.
They can get upset by any other team, but at the end of the day, they're the ones that could do it to
You guys,
themselves.
you guys are the favorites to come out the East, and you have been since even before we tipped off of basketball in 2023, 2024 season.
Mm-hmm.
So until I see it, just like you said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. Maybe that man is
Shout
the
out
man
Ric
in the mirror.
Flair. Woo!
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
maybe that's the man in the mirror. But yeah, no, those are just my 2 cents. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
no, I'm with you. Wrapping it back around, we're happy Embiid is back. Whether or not they play the Celtics or not, I'm just happy that we're getting one of the best players in the league back because the league is much better when everyone's healthy, especially guys like Embiid.
Yeah, absolutely. And who knows? They might not even have to play either of those teams in the first round.
But
Because
yeah, we could just be talking shit.
yeah,
This whole 10-minute segment could be nothing in a few weeks. So
you know, Well, enough about that. We'll leave that. We'll put that
Move
in the
on
bed.
from
We'll
that.
get
Yeah,
back to it.
put that in the back seat.
How about we touch on some offseason banter, I guess, a little bit at this point, but how about some Paul George, man? The Clippers haven't extended him, or they haven't come to agreements on an extension.
Mhm.
What they did with Kawhi like a few months ago, where hey, we want you for at least the next 2 to 3 seasons. So Kawhi's locked in as a Clipper. James Harden's not. I believe Russell Westbrook's not, and Paul
Mhm.
George is obviously the biggest piece. That's also not recommitted just yet because they're at odds on money, probably years likely. I can imagine. It's not a can of worms that we opened up yet, since there's still a whole postseason to play, but there's a lot of odds being put out there for
Yes,
where Paul
of
George
course.
might end up.
Naturally.
Yeah. And the top team that's on that list is the one we are just talking
Yeah,
about.
all right. I guess we're taking them out from the back seat, putting them right
Yeah.
back, putting them right
Yep.
in the passenger. Yep, we're back.
The Philadelphia 76ers are at the top,
Hmm.
followed by the Knicks and the Kings are tied at plus 950. The Oklahoma City Thunder and the Pacers, which would be funny because he played for both of those teams,
Right. Yeah.
which is tied at plus 1400. And then the Mavs
Hmm.
and the Lakers at plus 1500. So,
A lot of interesting teams on here. I'm honestly surprised to see the Kings. I think that's the most surprising team to me.
it's still kind of within the state of California. He's a
Right.
California kid. So,
Stays doesn't have to move around too much. No, that
yeah.
makes sense.
I don't know how far of a drive that is, man. We're East Coast guys here, so
I don't know shit about California. Never visited. Don't know when I will. Maybe one day. But yeah, I don't know anything about that West Coast traffic
hey,
or driving
I've
or
been
anything like that.
I've been there a few times, and I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's nice. It's
It's
nice.
it's
But
expensive over there. I hear it's you
absolutely,
can't hard to live over there. I'd like to visit, but not move.
vacation, vacation only, man.
Vacation,
Vacation
yes,
only.
100%.
But
Um,
do you
yeah,
think
go
he
ahead.
stays, or do you think he goes? Let's just ask that. Let's get that out the way.
So what I want to ask you is he a free agent this offseason, or is it like 1 year left after this season?
I believe we're talking about him being a free agent after this.
I think he's a free agent after this season too, but I just want to make sure of that because that can change the point of where I'm going to go here.
So he has a player option for the
So he's
2024-25.
going to be a free agent. So he'll be a
Yeah,
free agent.
he
Okay.
could opt in if he wants to. It's up to him though. If he opts in, he would be making $48 million for 2025. So
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. A lot of money to leave on the table, but I'm sure he's going to get offered a max or close to a max somewhere else. So him being my mindset, he's going to be a free agent this offseason. That's what I'm going to go with. Honestly, it depends on how the Clippers do in the playoffs, dude. Honestly, we've say this. I mean, we've been talking about this since before the season started. Like the Clippers every year, favorites. On paper, they're one of the best teams easily, but they can't stay healthy. They're healthy this year. They got Harden. They got Westbrook in a new role. I think this is the best chance they've ever had since Kawhi and Paul George have been to have come to LA. If they fall apart in the playoffs, and there's a lot of good teams in the Western Conference, the Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Thunder being the top three teams. If they fall apart in the playoffs, I absolutely see him leaving. You've been there for 5 years, and for multiple reasons, whether it's injuries, bad performances in the bubble, whatever it may be, you haven't been able to get it done. I definitely I'm looking at these teams and I see teams that I think can pry Paul George away from the Clippers. And even he wants to stay in LA, I think a few of these teams are enticing enough where he's going to want to, I think he's going to consider a lot of options this offseason. The Sixers, I mean, obviously you have Embiid, rising star in Maxey. That's a big three right away. And that's a dangerous team to go up against in the East. The Knicks, same way. I mean, you have Brunson, who, in my opinion, I think should be in more he shouldn't be in MVP talks, but I think he should be in that top 10 threshold. The things he's doing for the Knicks this season is unbelievable. They have OG, Josh Hart, Julius Randle's been hurt. Paul George, I think you add him to the mix. That's a crazy lineup. Thunder, Pacers, I think because he's played there before and just kind of their trajectory and where they're going, I think he can be convinced too. And then Luka, playing with Luka and Kyrie, I mean, that's hard to turn up. And then staying in LA for the Lakers, playing with LeBron and AD. I think these teams all have a good, they'll have enough to how am I trying to word this? They have enough incentives to try to bring Paul George over, right? I don't think Paul George is set on staying in LA, I think he can easily be convinced to leave. But what it comes down to what I think is if they fall apart in the playoffs, if they win, I think he'll stay. But if they, lose in the first round or fall apart in the second round, I think that possibility of him leaving is going to be much bigger. So I'd say I'm honestly kind of torn. I'd say I'm 50-50 right now.
Well, let me be the difference maker here. Let me break the
Please.
odds here.
Please.
I think he's gonna stay.
Okay.
Primarily because just looking at this contract information, and also in 2024, 25, he'll be 34 years old.
That is true. He's getting up there in age. Mm-hmm.
It comes down to how much money are you really worth on the open market, and are you gonna get more than $48 million for a season from any other team? Mm-hmm. This is probably like his last big year payday, because from that point on, I feel like if he's like, let's say that the Clippers don't resign him after next year, and he is a straight up unrestricted free agent, there's no player option, no team option, no nothing. I think at that point, it's like, okay, who's going to pay me? And it obviously depends on what happens this year, like you said, in the postseason, and what even happens next year, how he looks in the regular season, because not everybody ages like LeBron James or Kevin Durant, right? Like
100%. Mm-hmm.
We don't know if you're going to give me 25, 8-8, or damn near 29 or 30 from KD, like how he's doing. Mm-hmm. Like PG, how's your game going to age? And yes, PG's game at this point isn't directly demanded off of pure athleticism. He's one of the smoothest players in the NBA, which is why you can put Erykah Badu songs to his highlight tape, for Pete's sake. So that's why
people call him the GOAT. You have players nowadays calling him the GOAT.
Some people call him the GOAT, which not to talk shit about the guys that's down the street from me, but they're tripping. Brandon Miller, you're tripping, but I get it. It's your GOAT. You have your
respect. Yeah, everyone has their opinion.
I think it'll be foolish to turn down $48 million.
I get that.
One more season.
I get that perspective.
There's no guarantee,
Mm-hmm. No, from that perspective, I understand where you're coming from. I mean, financial stability. I mean, at that point in your career, like, you want to capitalize on the most money you can make. So I get that perspective. But that, like, I also think, like, he hasn't won a championship too, So it's like, what does he value more? He could definitely value making more money. And 100%, I understand that completely. But, maybe he's looking at these other situations and thinking, this is my best chance to win a ring. And I'm still going to make a good amount of money. Even if it's like a few $1 million less or something. If it's, let's say he makes $40 million on the dot, we'll just say.
Okay.
$40 million is still a lot of money, right? And I think a few of these teams could open up some cap space, like the Thunder. They don't really have any guys on big contracts right now. They could probably swing some money to bring him in and then deal with the extensions afterwards. Team like the Pacers maybe could do something like that. Teams like the Knicks, the Sixers, the Mavericks, especially because Luka's going to get that massive extension at some point, it's going to be a little harder to make that work. But yeah, I mean, I think it could come down to just what he wants. What does he value more, money or a ring? He could get both in LA. And that could be the biggest reason why he stays, because it's best of both worlds. But yeah, I mean, it's just a wait and see thing, I think.
Yeah, not like, I don't think you're wrong. It's a situation that we're going to have to monitor. And hell, this is probably more off-season banter than anything. But
sure.
Mm-hmm. We'll see how things go. But I guess before we close out this segment, just what team would you like to see him on?
What team would I like to see him on?
Ooh. Best fit, best scenario. We're talking, where can I win a championship at? If you're in the mind of Paul, I don't know your middle name, George.
I think the best chance, I mean, they're the favorites on here by a long shot. The Sixers. I mean, I think you plug him in. He's they have Tobias Harris, but forget about him. Maxey, Paul George, and Embiid is a trio that you do not want to fuck with. That's a scary trio. That's scary hours right there. For fun, I would love to see him go back to the OKC Thunder. I think you bring in someone proven like Paul George to that team that had a vet, but still is at, towards the top of his game. Pair him with some like SGA, Jalen Williams, Chet, all these other young guys. I mean, the Thunder are already competing for the 1 seed. They've been competing all year. SGA is going to be a final MVP finalist. You bring Paul George into the mix, I don't think it gets worse. I think that they'd still be towards the top of the West, but they're more of a threat. Like we talked about them before, when the Thunder reach the playoffs, what's the biggest concern? They're young. They're only a few, like, their average age isn't much higher than what the average age is for UConn. It's like they could go in the playoffs and be fantastic, but they're young bucks. The lights could be too bright. Who knows what could happen? You bring someone like Paul George in that has experienced that has been there. I think it eases that a little bit. So for fun, I'd say the Thunder, but realistically, I think if he wants the best chance at winning, he either stays in LA or goes to Philly.
You know, it kind of makes sense too, like Philadelphia being at the top, because that gets him out of the Western Conference.
That
which
too.
is which
That
is
too.
one hell of a dog to
Yeah.
get through already.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I like both answers. I think OKC would be fun, but I also feel like it has to take a certain kind of veteran. Maybe that could be PG that puts him over the top. I just don't know where I put him at, because I have SGA, I have Chet, but more importantly, I have Jalen Williams, who
Yeah.
plays that. He's really the second best player on the team role for us.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
that's what he does. And then maybe you sub out Giddey and maybe figure it out that way. But yeah, now both teams are interesting, I think, that you said. But
Yeah,
I'd probably
the
rock with Philly as the favorite as well. I mean,
I would hate it. I would hate it if you went to Philly, but I think it would be pretty damn cool if he did. I think that's his best chance for sure.
I think
Him
for
and
fun
Embiid,
though, yeah, no, him and Embiid would be crazy. It would
nasty.
Be
Mm-hmm.
But I think for fun, stay in LA and play for the Lakers. Like, obviously, I'm biased here.
Yeah,
I'm a
of
little
course.
biased, but
Yeah.
I consider it, the way I'm looking at it, the standpoint, things didn't work out with the Clippers, assuming that they don't get it done this year or the next. Why not play with LeBron, who pretty much teaches guys just how to win in some sense? We saw what he did for Kyrie Irving. Obviously, I know Kyrie a lot younger whenever LeBron picked him up with him, but you're talking about a situation where you get to play with LeBron and AD. That's
a lot of pressure is taken off of you.
You don't have to
and these are the last few good years of your career too. Like,
exactly
playing that with LeBron by your side, like, you could capitalize on this so much, and he could be the leader of that. Like, him and AD could be the 1 and 2 on that team, and LeBron would take the back seat in that situation.
LeBron can go back to playing point guard, like how he did in 2020, basically.
Sure,
where he averaged 10 assists a game. Plus, you grew up a Laker fan. You're a big Kobe guy.
The history is there. The history is there.
Before he signed that fat extension to stay with Indiana, he was thinking about coming to LA to play with Kobe. So,
and he was maybe going to go to Cleveland and play with LeBron.
Yeah, you were almost part of a trade.
Yeah,
like, hey, there's a lot of lines. There's a lot of roads connecting
that could lead back to LA, but the different LA team.
I forgot Kyrie was possibly going to get sent to Indiana before Boston. That was the thing.
Yeah, I think Paul George at one point was convinced he was going to go to Cleveland too.
Yeah.
Hey, they've had battles in the past. They've almost been teammates. If they become teammates at this point in all 3 of their careers, that could be magic. That could be some magic there.
And guess what? You ain't even got to move out your house, dog.
No, he can stay. He doesn't have to worry about getting movers. Doesn't have to worry about looking for a new house. Nothing. It's easy for him. Hey, for convenience sake, I think the Lakers are the best option for sure.
Yeah. But, if I'm just trying to really have fun, I would say go to Charlotte, man. Play with the guy who thinks you're to go and have a good time. That's all I'm saying.
The agenda starts today.
Hey,
PG to Charlotte. Hey, man.
Him and Brandon Miller are going to work out this summer. It's already been confirmed. Hey, I'll talk to Brandon Miller right now. Like, hey, just push the button. Just keep pushing. You never know.
In his ear. Just be in his ear. Hey, you never know. You really don't.
Kick up the rebuild, man. Kick up the rebuild.
That would be one of the craziest offseason signings if that was ever to happen. I would be so happy for you, but I'd be so shocked if anything like that happened.
I would question why he came here, but I would not be mad.
Yeah, we don't have the list of the full odds for every single team, but I'm sure the Charlotte Hornets are towards the bottom half of it. Probably, assuming
we can pay.
You can afford it. Oh, if he wants max money, he better start looking at homes in Charlotte.
It's cheap down here. A lot cheaper than LA.
Yeah, a whole lot cheaper than LA for sure. Hey, we'll see what happens this offseason. Again, this is another thing. We're talking about all this, and he could just pick up his option, and nothing happens. So this whole episode just could be watched. This could just be put in the archives. To be honest with you, who knows? But
Dante, Jerry, shut the fuck up. Y'all
you guys don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, it could be an interesting offseason. It could be an interesting offseason in LA.
Yeah, one player that's pretty much going to have a permanent offseason here because he just retired officially. Rajon Rondo, man. Shout out to your Celtics GOAT, man. One of those
My
guys that
guy, bro, Rajon. I that was the first thing I saw when I woke up this morning. And also I will say the first thought that came to my mind was he's not retired already. I thought he was already officially retired, but apparently he was waiting for a call. Maybe he's been like an analyst doing some work in the booth and stuff like that. But man, Rajon Rondo, bro. I mean, that was my point guard growing up because when I started watching basketball, like, a young guy watching the Celtics, like I think the first year that I started watching the Celtics was the year before they brought in KG and Ray Allen. So like and Rajon Rondo too. So like I started playing basketball at that age. So now I'm like watching it like, all the time. We get the big three. And man, obviously Ray Allen, KG, and Paul Pierce is of course, they're the big three. They're the reason why the Celtics won a championship. But man, people can't forget about what Rajon Rondo did for that team. He was, I think, the glue guy for them. He was the floor general. He was magic with the basketball. He was a magician, dude. He was just doing things that we hadn't seen in a long time. He was just so fun to watch. Even after, the big three left and, gets traded, whatever goes to Miami, Ray Allen, he still like would light it up in Boston and stuff like that. Eventually he got traded, but he was just so fun to watch. Just whenever he had the ball in his hands, you didn't know where it was going to go. He could be looking that way, the ball is going that way. He could be looking that way, the ball is going that way. Yeah. It's like the guy was just, it was so fun to watch. Even when he left Boston, I still rooted for him, whether he was in Dallas, Sacramento, Cleveland, LA, maybe not LA, maybe not the Clippers, yeah, LA Clippers. But yeah, man, I've always loved Rondo. Honestly, one of my all-time favorite players. But yeah, man, great career. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I think he should be in consideration to be a Hall of Famer one day.
I mean, absolutely, man. Like, we're talking about a guy with 2 NBA championships with 2 of the most storied
for the Celtics and the Lakers. And he helped both those franchises win their 17th championship.
He played a major role. He played a major role for both teams, obviously, where he was just, you couldn't do without him. You really just couldn't do without him. And then he's one of 4 guys, I believe, to have 4+ seasons or 4 seasons of averaging 11 or more assists, along with Magic, Steve Nash, and John Stockton. We're talking about some of the greatest point guards of all time. So I think it's a no-brainer, man. The resume speaks for itself. His impact on teams speaks for itself. And if given the opportunity to actually grow out with one organization for a bulk of his career, we're talking about a guy that has multiple franchise records for perhaps the Boston Celtics, or maybe even if it would have worked out in Dallas with Dirk. Maybe he transitions to where it comes with Luka, or he stays in Sacramento. Maybe that situation turns around earlier. Like, there's Rondo.
The Bulls. Oh, he was in Chicago. He went to a bunch of teams after he left. After he got traded from Boston.
The Bulls
had
a good shot.
Hawks.
The Hawks.
Don't forget about that.
Yeah, the Cavs, like you mentioned. Like, there's the guy was a journeyman at the end of his career, like how most athletes are, unfortunately, sometimes. But Rondo is literally like a national treasure in my head. Like, there is
one of the best minds too, dude. Yeah. One of the best basketball minds.
If LeBron says it, man, something's got to be true, other than when he lies sometimes. But
liar.
There's a lot of Rondo memories in my head where it's like, yo, this dude he was one of the best point guards of like our generation. Yeah, like I think you could match him up with a lot of different guys, and he has an argument with these Hall of Fame point guards like a Steve Nash, who's ringless, has the MVPs, yeah, for sure, but I wouldn't be mad if you say you want Rondo instead.
Fraud MVPs.
Yes. Yeah, we don't got to talk. Conversation.
Sorry, today. My window's open.
No. Open it more. But it's the same thing for Chris Paul, the guy who, which is Rondo's real name. But
I love that video so much.
Chris Paul.
The look on his face, you want to clock him.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, a great, unbelievable career, dude. We have it written down on the topics here. We're gonna ask, what is your favorite Rajon Rondo memory? And when I was looking at this dude, and I was thinking just thinking of all the different the years that he was in Boston. The one thing that stuck out to me, the one memory that I just remember so vividly, I remember watching the game as it happened. It was one of his last years in Boston. It was the year before KG and Paul Pierce got traded. And I know this because they were playing the Nets. Rajon Rondo was on this insane streak. I think it was at this point, it was 37 games in a row with 10 or more assists. He tied John Stockton for number 2. He was less than 10 away from passing Magic. Games going on. I think it was like the second quarter or something. Chris Kardashian, excuse me, I forget who he hit someone, or it was a hard foul on someone, maybe KG, whoever, and Rajon Rondo just goes up to him and just shoves him, starts to get into a fight, whatever, gets ejected. Streak over. And to me, I remember that, like, he just, like, was such a good teammate, and he stood up for his teammates that he was like, I don't give a fuck about that record. Like, if you put your hands on my teammate, like, I'm going after you type of thing. Like, yeah. I just remember that, and, like, when I think of that, I just think of Rondo, the teammate, and just going back to what I said about him being, like, kind of like the low-key glue guy for those Celtics teams. Like, he was the floor general. He held it all together. He had his teammates' backs. And then, ironically enough, the next year, Chris Humphries gets traded to Boston, and now they're teammates. So that was whatever. But another one I have too is when he tore his ACL against the Atlanta Hawks and had no idea he tore it. And the way he found out was because he was listened to a radio station where they reported that he tore his ACL, and he was like, "Wait, I did?" And then he found out through his doctors, teams, that yeah, it was a torn ACL. Played through it, went through a whole overtime with a torn ACL, didn't even know. Like, just the commitment to staying on the court, for playing for his team and stuff like that. He was the ultimate leader. Those two memories stick out the most for me, 100%.
Yeah, that definitely was mine. Like, just that's the true heart of, like, man, I'm a warrior and I'm just trying to get this shit done. Mm-hmm. Like, playing on a torn ACL, like, thankfully, knock on wood, I've never torn my ACL. I can't even imagine the type of ground and pound that basketball is, up and down, jumping to contest for layups, shots, everything. Like, it sounds insane that you tore your ACL and you kept playing basketball. So that's like a major thing in my mind. He even dislocated his elbow that one time.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, on the floor. Oh yeah.
It was nasty. But
dude was tough. Dude was tough, and you know what? Boston fans loved him for that because he just laid it all out on the floor. You do that in a Celtics jersey in front of those fans, and you're a legend forever. And he's a legend in my eyes. Hopefully he'll be in the Hall of Fame one day very soon. Unbelievable career for Rajon Rondo.
Yeah, salute to him, man. Like, also, without him, my Lakers don't have another championship. I credit him majorly.
We both owe Rajon Rondo for helping our team win rings. Yes.
He's only one of two players to win a ring with both the Celtics and the Lakers.
Who's the second one?
It's a fun fact for you, man. I don't remember. I literally was looking at it, but I forgot.
I don't know. Yeah, that's. I honestly thought he was the only one, but if there's another one, I believe you. I'm trying to think in my head of who it could be. Who? It had to have been older. It had to have been probably like back in the 80s or something like that, maybe 70s, 80s.
This is like taking forever.
Reporter Jerry's on the case here.
Yeah, this is definitely somebody we don't know.
No, definitely a 60s, 70s, 80s player. We'll chalk it up as that.
His name.
So Rajon Rondo, who is it?
Is Clyde Lovelett.
Yeah, so Rajon Rondo, the only player in NBA history to win a championship with both the Celtics and the Lakers.
No disrespect, Clyde.
No disrespect. No, it's an unbelievable accomplishment. He accomplished a lot during his career. One of the more enjoyable players to watch. Will definitely be missed.
Absolutely. Hey, you know what? I know Rondo might not have a feel for it, but get into some head coaching, man. Like,
bro, if he ever wanted to coach, he'd be so good at it.
He goes to Kentucky like for classes, and he was attending classes with, I think, Rob Dillingham, Kentucky's like projected lottery pick, and he says he was helping out with the team from time to time, but not too much. But I would love to see Rondo the coach, man. Put that IQ to work, man. You're one of the smartest guys to ever play this game. So.
He'd be a successful coach, I think. I think he'd be very successful. Yeah. Hey, who knows? Maybe we'll see him. Maybe we'll see him on the sidelines one day, whether it's for college or the NBA. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm down.
But yeah,
that's all we got today, man. Just any parting shots is what I need to ask.
Any parting shots? Shout out to the NCAA tournaments, especially the women's tournaments, man. I want to give a shout out to all the female hoopers out there. Man, you are putting on an absolute show. You're putting such a bright light on women's basketball, which is something that is so needed. That is just, I'm so happy that they're getting a lot more attention, more eyes on the product. Because in my opinion, I don't want to say who's better and who's worse, what tournament's been better, whatever. But the women's tournament, I think, has been more enjoyable to watch. And also, we talked about this before, I can probably list off more like star players playing in the women's tournament than the men's. So I think the women's tournament has been a little bit more enjoyable and fun to watch. But shout out to them, man. They're killing it. Can't wait to see the next few games and also what some of these girls do going into the NBA, WNBA, or whether they go back. I'm excited to see what their future holds for them.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I second that motion, man. Juju Watkins, Paige Beckers, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, you guys are phenomenal. All of South Carolina is a beast.
South Carolina.
So, I'm excited for where the game is at, where it's gone in the last, even 10 years or so. Mm-hmm. When I was in kind of like the peak years for me watching, the Candace Parkers, the Maya Moores, the UConn was the team in the 2010s, really. So
mm-hmm.
they were dominating for a very Breonna Stewart, obviously, Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, going way back to the 2000s and stuff. I don't know. Love college hoops. I love the women. It's phenomenal to see them get their just due now.
Yes, Jerry and Dante, confirmed woman lovers. We love you guys. We're killing it. You're killing it. Keep doing your thing. And happy that hopefully...
you made me sound like a hoe, man.
We love the woman. But yeah, no, hopefully, this sparks, with the star power and stuff, this sparks a wave or a change, you can say, whether it's in college basketball or transitions to the WNBA as well. I think women's hoops is, we're in an upward trajectory. We're in a good place right now. And I think it's just only going to get better and better. So I love it. Big fan.
Cool.
And that's that.
That's all we
got. That's
that. Dante gave you all the plugins and stuff like that. That's episode 32 of Sitting Courtside.
Episode 32. And we'll be back here again next week for another edition. Make sure to check out our shorts for the gamified content as well. Because we have a ton of fun games, quizzes, all that stuff that you can check out there. I said it before. I'll say it again if you made it this far. Follow, subscribe, audio listener, 5 stars, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Follow us. You know it. And until next week.
Peace.
Pieces.